Coming up today on Locked On Texas Tech, a buffet of things to consider from the Red Raiders' loss in OT to the Butler Bulldogs, including both encouraging signs of progress and red flags. Next on Locked On Texas Tech.
You are Locked On Texas Tech, your daily podcast on the Texas Tech Red Raiders, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
We're going to start this thing off right. Raider! Everything runs through Lubbock.
Great to be with you again on Locked On Texas Tech on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, always free and available on YouTube or anywhere you get podcasts. And today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's $150 back if your team wins. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon today to get started with the only Chris Level, who I just scooped off the tarmac this morning in the LBK. I am Casey Cowan. That's why he's the people's champ, folks. 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours of sleep, we don't know, but we're cooking right now with what we got following a wild trip to Indiana. Red Raiders are close, but without a cigar at the end of the day as they fall in overtime to the Butler Bulldogs, 103-95. We're diving right into that with some thoughts from Red Raider head coach Grant McCasland in just a moment. And we'll also get to a football conversation as a big weekend looming. You want to see improvement with the roster? It's weekends like this that can have an impact. We'll talk about some of those on the scene, considering Texas Tech as their next football destination this weekend. But hoops to kick her off here, Chris, and it was a very entertaining college basketball game. There's no question about that, but not the result that we were hoping for. And there's a whole lot to dive into and a whole lot to pick apart that was included in this game. But let's kick it off with a listen to Red Raider head coach Grant McCasland on the Texas Tech Sports Network, talking about the thing that probably at the end of the day kept you from getting over the hump. What is it? That's the defensive end of the floor. Here is Red Raider head coach Grant McCasland.
If this is what we think was going to be the way that we can play defense in the Big 12, then we're in for a real problem. And I think the biggest thing when I watch it was our lack of one-on-one taking the ownership of I'm going to defend this guy physically. And it felt like we got bullied on some of those baskets at the rim and then got bullied on some of those plays on drives when you just have to get those stops. I don't know what to say. I mean, you physically have to figure out a way to get in between them and the basket and get stops. And then I think the biggest thing that I'm going to take away from this, and I need to watch film on it to get clear on it, but is we're going to have to find a little deeper rotation at some level. We're going to have to find some other guys. If we want to push the basketball like this, we're going to have to be able to, and it looked like we died in overtime and we got fatigued and then we started settling for threes without getting paint touches. And there's only so many times Joe can drive in there. So just, Pop made a great play at the end to get us in overtime. I thought that drive to the basket really said a lot, but then we settled too much at the end. And we just got to find a way to get deeper. That's what I'm taking from it.
The venue was awesome. It was a really, I guess, probably to a defensive savant, probably not the best basketball game. It was an entertaining basketball game. I think if you took the over, you were certainly just like like the Donald Duck meme where he's just walking around counting the money and the money's going everywhere. This was a very good offensive team coming into the game. They were averaging 80 points a game, and you just couldn't get them stopped. They have a guy on their staff for Thad Matta, I think named Adam Howard, who's spent a lot of time with Brad Stevens at the Celtics. And they run a lot of NBA stuff, a lot of ISO stuff, and quick hitting type things, and they just they picked you apart a little bit and got what they wanted, and they hammered you in the paint for most of this game. As it ended up, the paint points, it ends up 42-38, to which you're thinking, well, that's not really but I think at one point that stat right there was 36-20 in favor of Butler. They just kind of were getting it into the paint, getting stuff, catches at the elbow, and then next thing you know, the interior passing just kind of picking you apart. and you were, they were making those shots. So yeah, defensively, and This is about. It's funny because I think Grant's very transparent. He's very honest. I like it. I think he's coaching these guys as hard as he can. I think you're a bit limited with your team right now, but I think that one of the things he applauded them for in the Bahamas was their ability to start understanding how important a scouting report is, and knowing like, okay, when so and so gets the ball, are they a shooter? Are they a driver? Are they going right? Are they going left? And I think you lost a little bit of that last night, which can be typical on the road. It gets, there's about, 8,500, 9,000 in that place last night. It got really, really loud, which is I think that thing holds 9,100 at capacity. It felt full. It felt really loud as you got rolling, and you start to, and I think the tired legs also affects you. Because like if you look at it, you had both your starting guards played over 41 minutes. That's hard to sustain, and it's hard to be good at the end when it's most important. But Chance McMillan off the bench, he played 36. I'm glad that he did. We'll get into more of that.
Before we get to accentuating some of those positives, and there are definitely some to get to, let's get to another thing that was just pull your hair out frustrating. Defense probably at the top of that list without taking credit away from Butler again. They were making shots and making great plays. The passing was incredible. They did a lot of things I want to see Texas Tech do as the season goes on. So credit to them. But the other thing, and you mentioned some names that I would love to have contribute to this cause. I don't know if they will or not. But the other thing that really was on the list of hair-pulling frustration was this. First, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel, and you can spice up the action and keep the sports flames stoked this winter with America's #1 sportsbook and the official sportsbook of Locked On. There's nothing nicer than cuddling up with a warm prop bet or player parlay. And if you've been thinking about joining FanDuel, there's no better time to get in on the action with their safe, secure, and easy-to-use app where it's all at your fingertips. And, of course, when you win with FanDuel, you're always paid instantly. And right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 moneyline bet. That's right. That's $150 coming your way if your team wins. You'd be a fool to not take a bite out of that. So get to FanDuel.com/lockedon and sign up today for your shot at $150 in bonus bets with any $5 moneyline bet that hits with FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. But the other thing that really was on the list of hair-pulling frustration was this. 40-24, you were out-rebounded on the glass. And I want to take another listen to Coach McCasland because this kind of surprised me that he said this. You alluded to, how many 6'10" guys they had. We talked about Texas Tech going smaller some recently leading into this game. But this coming out of his mouth in the post-game conversation on the Texas Tech Sports Network with you was a little surprising to me that he actually expected this to possibly be an advantage, but it goes entirely the opposite way. I want to get your thoughts on this, but first let's take another listen to head coach Grant McCasland.
I said it before the game, I felt like our advantage was on the glass. I felt like if we could really leverage and get the right shots that we could rebound, and it flipped on us. I thought our inability to rebound, especially at the end of the game, was pivotal, and they got 13 offensive rebounds and scored on them. And that part, to me, was probably the most disappointing part of the game. Now, anytime you got told our team, anytime you give them 100 points, I don't even know what to say. I mean, that's our attention to scouting reports, and it's my fault. I didn't do a good enough job preparing our team, and we weren't ready defensively. And they came out and had actions, and they run a lot of good actions. They run good sets. And it felt like we couldn't ever really find a defensive identity where we were going to kind of separate. And in the second half, I felt like we started the game like, hey, here we go. Like we're coming alive, and this is what we do defensively. We get stops so that way you could put in. And that's how we scored in transition. When we took the lead, we were getting stops and we were playing in transition. And then they got a few offensive rebounds, and then their physicality and our lack of ability to finish plays got us in the second half. So we just can't start that way. Can't start that way defensively, and we've got to be significant significantly better, and that's my fault.
Butler coming in, they weren't like overwhelmingly just like hammered teams on the glass. It's more of a finesse team. It's more of a get up and down, and like I said, they're scoring 80 points. They weren't the best defensive team either, or on the glass. And I thought that also plays into why you were able to score what you were. They want to kind of get into a shootout, but I thought because I think what ultimately I hear him saying, he kind of alluded to it in both things that you've played, is that it comes down to that toughness and grit. And whether it's defense or rebounding, it's kind of the same. It's want to. And I think he thought that his team would be better in that category. You want to box and board. Yeah, you want to, get in somebody's face and not allow them to pull the trigger over you from behind the arc when they're a shooter and all those things. But some of this is just kind of and coming down to want to, and then you get back to, well, are you asking too much from too few many of your personnel?
Well said.
Yeah, and it's like, but there's the rub there. It's like, if we get into like, okay, I'm gonna put this guy in because he's a really good defender, but he's just a liability on offense. Then all of a sudden, so it's like and this is part of a basketball season. You're trying to figure out, because I could hear the wheels are spinning. Okay, do we not need to play as fast because we're just tiring out against a team? Do we slow it down more? Do I need to go deeper and then keep the pace with which we're playing at? I mean, there's all kinds of game within the game kind of dynamics that I think they're still trying to figure out who they are, what is best. But 40 to 24. And part of this was, in a way, you went small in the second half. Warren Washington spent a lot of time on the bench in the second half, but this is what got you back in the game. You overcame about a 8-point lead, took the lead, maintained it for a bit when you went small, and with that you're kind of giving up some size and obviously length around the rim, and so that's kind of the choice you made. But I mean, we want to trade some of those shooters on the floor in the second half that were bombing away, Chance McMillan namely. So I don't know.
Yeah, that list of positives, he may be at the top of it. I don't know. He's certainly on it. As predicted by you, some of those are going to start falling. I don't know if you were calling for an 8 for 10 night from beyond the arc. He was one off of, I believe, tying Alan Voskel's 3-point record of 9 made in a game against KU once upon a time. McMillan's on the list with his 24. So many of these things, you're just so frustrated that they went for naught at the end of it because it's a loss, whether it was McMillan, Devin Cambridge, who will only eat a tomahawk ribeye, no other. He prefers the tomahawk. No word yet on if he likes salmon, but hopefully he does as well. Double-double for Joe Toussaint. I thought Pop Isaacs had one of his better individual days. And here's another kicker. 7 turnovers for Texas Tech. In extra time as well. Only 7 turnovers, but all these things, of course, not quite enough to get over the hump. Which one do you want to pick up and run with, Chris? Because I enjoyed all of the above.
Well, there's a lot to like. I think Chance McMillan breaking out is, you're right, tops the list. But I also thought, because that was one of the things that Jeff Haxton and I talked about before the game started last night on the broadcast, was that was the common denominator. And you and I have talked about it too, Casey, is that, against Northern Iowa and against Michigan, I think you had 17 total turnovers in both of those games.
Yeah.
So about 8.5 a game there. And if you can continue to play this way and really do a good job of taking care of the basketball, results are going to start to favor you a lot more consistently, just because the game is so much easier when you get – but, again, the rebounding component's got to come along with it. But, I thought – because that was a big-time problem for this team. Now, what we haven't seen them do this is at home. These are two neutral site and then a road game on taking better care of the ball. But, I thought Joe Toussaint, man, he continues just to give you all that he's got. I mean, and he's emptying his bucket every night out and scoring, facilitating.
On the floor, loose balls.
I mean, wrestling matches on the floor, and I'm picking him every time.
Yeah.
He can't give you any more than what he's given you. Was not Darian Williams' best game last night. I think, obviously it was not Lamar Washington's best game. Barely, didn't get to play a whole lot, just the 4-minute stint there. And it wasn't probably Warren Washington's best game either. He caught a couple of alley-oops, missed a couple of layups around the rim, and just kind of, I don't know, because they did have a lot of bigs. We talked about that, but they only played about 3. And like Andre Screen is his name. He had 14 and 6, I think, but like this is way more than what he normally does on any given night. And that's the frustration there for him. So, but that's, typically role players play a lot better at home. And he certainly was one of those.
Before we move on and hit a football conversation, Chris, 13 for 26 from beyond the arc. And I know that Chance McMillan had an historic night, but I don't know what the mean is or if we're regressing back to something like that in a positive way. But, coming into the year, Coach McCasland said, I think this is a good shooting team. Been up and down, but if McMillan really starts to click, then maybe you do kind of believe that they could be one of the better shooting teams in the Big 12 Conference. I don't know. Do you think this is a little bit more of an aberration or something that you're starting to be able to rely on? I don't know about 50% on 26 of them, but you know what I'm saying. Can you be effective?
Gonna have to be at some level, I think, and it because at some point, that's one of your dirty little secrets here is that Pop Isaacs has not shot the ball well at all from deep recently. His numbers have dropped significantly, but he's still scoring. He's still doing everything he can for his team, and so at some point, his numbers are going to go up too. He's too good of a shooter. It's streaky at times, but again, a 6 for 6 night is coming for him. And so, because now what happens with Chance, guess what? You go 8 for 10 at Butler. That's on every scouting report going forward for the rest of the season. And so they start face guarding you. They start, Joe and Pop and Darian Williams hit a couple last night, which I thought was big. And it's not like Isaacs is like super struggling. It's like we were just used to a certain level, and I think his 3-point percentage is like, I don't know, 27, 28 or something after last night, maybe slightly off there, but he's a much better shooter than that. I don't worry about it because they're going to go in. We've probably, shame on us, but he's one of we talk about Joe's toughness. Pop is one of the toughest kids out there. And I mean, he gets it to overtime, and we haven't said that. My fault, because I mean that's the second time in 3 games where he just kind of grinds it out. He gets to his right and he shoots that floater. Boom! Let's keep playing. Or in the Northern Iowa game, let's win it. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody. But I just think I tip my cap to your 2 guards, man, because they are. I mean, and again, the 40-minute plus, they're just giving you all that they've got, and it's pretty fun to watch kids compete. And if you can just sprinkle in more chance, consistent, because you're going to play some teams that have no idea how to score 103 points if you gave them 80 minutes to play. Okay, so all is not lost. This is a really high-level offensive team. And you just had a hard time, but it's an entertaining bunch for Texas Tech that plays really hard. They've got to get some of this defense, cleaned up and some of the rebounding stuff and all that. They will. It'll be fine. Just got to keep grinding away at it, man.
Probably going to be an uphill battle throughout the year, but if you can fight and find a way to compete there, you'll have some better days ahead. And go on ahead, Joe Toussaint, and join a handful of games into the season. My list of favorite Red Raiders all time, I guess I'll go ahead and put you in that category already because I'm loving what you're doing. And shout out to Alan Voskel, who one time after a great day beating Kansas, I tried to buy a beer at Crickets on Broadway. He said, I'd prefer a water. I said, so would my pocketbook. Sir, you want it with ice or al dente? So shout out to Alan Voskel and looking forward to the next opportunity for Texas Tech. Hate that you were not able to get over the hump in this one, but hopefully good things to come as a result of that experience, by the way. And this is just the vibe I'm getting. You know what term was coming to mind watching this last night? Street Dog. Have you gotten back to something a little edgier as far as what you're bringing to the table? I'm not so sure that you have not done that, which is a great thing to see. You leave the land of pet shop puppies, and let's get back to some of these mutts on the street that have got to fight for every meal. All right, Chris, before we get out of here, let's pivot to what is hopefully a very consequential weekend coming up for Texas Tech football. Before we get out of here, let's pivot to what is hopefully a very consequential weekend coming up for Texas Tech football. Now, they're not playing it, but what do we got here? 7, 8 guys en route to the LBK and an opportunity to improve a roster, hopefully. I don't know where the concentration is necessarily. We got a lot of wants, needs on that wish list. I know that. But it's a big weekend for Joey McGuire and the Red Raiders as they play host to a few prospective Red Raiders.
Yes, they do. And this is the fluidity, maybe we'll use that word, is fascinating here, because I think while your wants and wishes and your visits are one thing today, what do they look like, in 4 days when the portal officially opens? And do you lose more guys and that shifts your needs, or does somebody hop in there that you're like, oh, we know him, he's pretty good, he's kind of an upgrade over what we've got, let's go shopping. So that's why I say that the fluidity with this deal is, because what I'm telling you is going to happen. I can just almost guarantee you that at some level, somebody somewhere is an upgrade, and they hop in, and you know them and you know what they're about, and you're like, well, we don't really need it, but boy, this money in my pocket is burning a hole in it, and I'd like to have me one of those. I'd like to have me that, and I'm here for it. It's business, right? This is
sure.
That's what this is right now. It is borderline free agency. Okay, so they've got a host of prospects on campus this weekend. You've got DBs, offensive linemen, are mainly. You've got and that's really, you mentioned priority. Offensive lineman is clearly the priority. And here's the dilemma that Joey and staff have got. The folks that are on this list are either were already in the portal, or just got in, or they're not. They don't have anything to do with it. They're like a junior college or division, smaller division, school, one of those type scenarios. So this is where you have to trust James Blanchard and Brian Nance and the guys that evaluate these guys, because on Monday, more than likely, there's going to be a variety of people that hop in from around the country that can play all these positions, some of which will be a lot better than potentially what is on the visit list for this weekend. But you've gotten a head start. You have a connection already. There's no guarantees that you get somebody that hops in, or that you necessarily will like them better than what you're dealing with here. Because I think there's a level of, man, we'd like to have some guys that have multiple years of eligibility left would be the preference. So there's some of that want and need as well, instead of strictly a grad transfer like a Rusty Stats. But so that's what you're dealing with. Meanwhile, the football program is like all spread out over there. Is like their offices or the football building. It's got to be a weird weekend to host visits. Yeah. I mean, here's what we've spent the last 17 years doing everything, but it's kind of emptied out, guys, because we're moving. They're about to tear it down. Your new home is this steel, and these cranes are, and then come to my office up in the press box on the west side of the stadium. I mean, so
hey, guys, you want to swing the wrecking ball? You want to climb the crane?
You want to climb? Might be a liability issue. Maybe, I don't know, but and we've got the whole list of visitors posted on RedRaidersports.com. I'm not going to bore you with that, but to answer your question, offensive line, there's you need 2 to 4. So what we can settle on because I think and when we've mentioned it, it's widely been reported. You've offered a UTEP kid, you've offered a kid from North Dakota. you've offered some smaller school type kids the offensive line. But that's really and so when you get them here, do we really? How what do you look like? Is are you cleaned up and is your body right? Do we need to put a lot of work in there? Are you really 6'6"? I mean, what's your personality like? Do you have some jerk in you, like in a good way? All those dynamics. But I'd be willing to tell you that if they get here this weekend and they like what they see and are around, I mean, these are guys that I think you're willing to take. You're willing to say, you know what, let's do this. You're going to help me fix this problem that we've got, and I'm going to close up shop if you get enough of the right ones. So that's the dynamic. And then I'll also tell you real quick. There's Isaiah Crosby is a kid out of Trinity Valley CC there in Athens. It's in East Texas on I-20 when you're going like to Tyler, and Trinity Valley is a junior college right there. There's this is a kid that plays some safety. I don't think this is necessarily a need, but I think he's so good that they want to take him. I think that Coach Johnson, who coaches receivers for you, his brother, I think, is involved with the coaching staff at Trinity Valley. I think this is one of the top junior college players in the state of Texas from a football standpoint. So, and I think he's got some awards that have indicated that. I think they will throw their hat in the ring there, and you've got some connections there. So I think if he likes it and they like him again, I think they'll take him for sure.
Yeah, and one of the things you mentioned, RedRaidersports.com, having info on this. One of the things I saw was Tech, hosting Canadian defensive back or something like that. Now, this is a real Canadian, but I thought finally somebody's taken me up on my idea. One scholarship every year for any man from Canadian Texas. I still think that would be a great idea. They just grow them differently up there. But this is further than the Panhandle. This is an actual Canadian. So curious to see how it goes, and hopefully the upgrading of the roster begins this weekend. So we'll continue to pay attention to that closely. And as Chris mentions, the next time we'll join you, it is portal season for real. So it'll be happening even faster and more furiously as that really gets going next week. Chris,
and bowl season for real too, because the next time we talk to you, we should know the Red Raiders' next opponent. And if what a lot of has been reported, and it's Shreveport, I mean, we're going to be sitting here and you're going to be playing the next time we talk, you're going to be playing in less than 2 weeks.
Yep.
So it's going to be like fast tracked. And I would just tell you this either. I wouldn't rule out Phoenix on December the 26th. I'll just throw that out there. I would not, that's kind of in that, their Armed Forces 23rd, Shreveport 16th, Phoenix on the 26th. I think you share a sideline. I think it's on a baseball stadium and all that. But again, and the timing is a bit goofy because it's the day after Christmas, but would not rule out that one either.
That stuff wears me out. What are we out of football fields? What's next? You can take it to a softball pitch somewhere just to screw us all over?
I mean, and when you're the sideline reporter,
right.
What does this mean exactly? Like, do I get
means you may have to brawl with the other team's opposing sideline.
I get, freaking let's go, man.
Strap them up, baby. There, he just told you, bare knucks.
Stomp a mud hole in your ass and walk it dry, you big piece of trash. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry for my language.
Let's get some sideline reporter beef cooking here today as we head into the weekend. All right, man. Enjoyed it. Appreciate it. Hopefully you can get some rest, Chris, because we got a whole lot to get into on the other side of the weekend, man. Thanks for the time as always.
Hey, man, appreciate it. I'm going to go get some sleep, try to re-energize a bit. But, appreciate the time. We'll talk to you, I don't know, pretty quick over the weekend. A lot going on, and this next week is a lot going on. So we'll reconvene soon. Keep hope alive. I saw people in Indy, man, and they tell me to keep hope alive. I appreciate you listening to the show. Calvin and I very much appreciate it. See you out there on maybe another road trips as well. But have a good weekend, everybody. We'll talk to you soon.
Appreciated hearing that Raider power come through the television set as well, because that was noticeable also. All right. Yeah. Make sure you're subscribed, because when the news hits, you want to be right here on YouTube or anywhere you get podcast. For Chris, I'm Casey, and we'll see you for the next round on Locked On Texas Tech.